So, it's playoff baseball. The end of the world as we know it. Or at least that would have been my line if the Twins had actually won a game against the Yankees, which they didn't. So now their record-breaking losing streak against the Yankees is up to 13 straight playoff games, which is the longest single streak of one playoff opponent against another playoff opponent. And their overall losing streak is up to 16 straight games. That is not only the worst streak in baseball, it is tied for the worst mark in the playoffs by any of the four major sports. The only team that equally sucked were the 1970s Chicago Blackhawks. Also, to tie into what you talked about last week, Joe, our Madden watch is, it seems that, as we expected, Joe Madden is going to manage the Angels. Not a done deal, but fait accompli, as one person put it. And other things have happened because, of course, as you said, Joe, stuff happens a lot this week. The MVP thing, I agree with your stats on Bregman. The problem is I don't think he'll win out with the name value that Trout has. So I see Bregman coming a close second. Let's see. The NBA was in the news for all the wrong reasons. I don't want to get too much into this because, surprise, the political person doesn't really want to do a deep dive into a political situation. Long story short, the Rockets GM tweeted in support of Hong Kong supporters. China took real offense to that and has basically censored the Rockets out of China. And predictably, the league has responded by apologizing to China, which is ironic, and this all came out with the South Park episode this week, basically talking about kowtowing to China. I am not impressed with the reaction that the NBA has given to China. Adam Silver has basically said, "We're sorry for offending you," which is absurd. And this flies in the face of the post-Kaepernick, post-2011 woke culture of being able to express what your opinions are, even if they're unpopular. The reason I don't really want to talk about this now is this all just recently broke within the last 24 hours, so there's not really much fallout to go over as of yet, aside from a surprisingly large amount of backlash to the NBA and the Rockets. That, and also I think it shouldn't have to be said of the abuses of civil rights, of personal privacy, environmental damage, and all other normally unreported atrocities that China does. But that is more of a two political bros talk channel, not a two sports bros. So I will save that. And if anything more comes out of it, we'll probably talk about it. And before I go, my playoff predictions, because, well, it's a little late in the postseason. We already have a few teams out, and 3 games have been forced long. I still expect a Yankees-Astros championship series in the American League. As of right now, the Astros are playing tonight. As the Rays forced to Game 4, I don't really see the Rays coming out on top. And I'm going to say it's a best-of-7 series again for the AL. I imagine that, like 2017, the Astros will win 7 games unless the Yankees can steal a game at home in games 1 or 2. National League side, the division series wrap up tomorrow. Both went to Game 5s. I see the Braves and the Dodgers coming out on top. Although don't be surprised if the Nationals with Steven Strasburg on the mound are able to squeak out. I actually see the Braves going to the World Series. While the Dodgers' rotation is immense and their lineup is balanced, the rotation isn't without its faults, specifically how Clayton Kershaw turns into a completely different pitcher in the postseason. A Braves against an Astros World Series. Who comes out on top? It's no surprise. Astros. They have the rotation. They have Alex Bregman, who should be MVP even though he won't. They'll come out in 6 games, maybe 5. But what do you think, Joe? What do you think of my predictions? What do you think about the NBA situation? I await your thoughts. See you then.